Hey, what's going on, you guys? You are here live. What's up? We have here Mr.
James Harris,
So you've been married for 22 years of marriage, right?
22 years.
That's awesome. I pray to God that I could be able to reach 22 years of marriage. How did you maintain 22 years of marriage?
Well, first of all, you got to have some main ingredients in your marriage. You know, marriage is based on 3 ingredients: trust, love, and forgiveness. That's what breaks the foundation of a marriage. You got to learn to trust. Jealousy got to be plucked out. Pride must be thrown away. And you got to be grateful in your marriage. Learn how to retreat, how to treat one another and to respect one another. And I think that'll make it go a long ways. And quick to forgive. You don't argue with each other, and it's quick to listen and slow to speak. Hear what she got to say, listen to her. You don't have to argue and fuss about anything, but listen to one another. Don't talk at one another, talk with one another. And you can begin to hear one another. That's how you keep that foundation in love. You date one another, you go out, you hold hands, and when you're wrong, be quick to admit it. Don't sweep nothing up under the rug. If it's broke, fix it. So far that's how I keep mine for 22 years, and I'm planning on keeping it some more until the Lord could take me home. I got to continue. You got to make that change.
The communication part.
Yes.
A lot of people say they're like awesome communicators, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people say that, However, what if you dealing with that particular woman that, that says she's a communicator, but she's really not a communicator?
So here it is. They're not really a communicator, but you are. First of all, you got to listen to what they're talking about instead of butting in.
Right.
Instead of butting in. Because you want to listen in order to communicate the right way. Listen to what the words they're saying coming out of their mouth, where you're going to know how to handle that situation. And when you hear the situation, then what you do, you pattern it out and find out what you need to pick out and what you need to put in. Then you put it all together like an ingredient. You talk with each other, a soft word instead of hollering, because a soft word turns away wrath. I can communicate better if I can hear better. The only way you can hear better is you listen to one another.
The patience part, I think that's where the plot thickens. You know what I'm saying?
That's where pot is thicker at. Patience.
Yeah, I really because when it comes to certain situations, everybody want to be right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody want to be right. Nobody want to be wrong. Everybody want to point fingers. Don't nobody want to have the last say so. They want to be the chief and no Indians in the house.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could tell you a couple of incidents. I've been through a divorce, right?
Right.
And I dealt with I'm not gonna say that I was in the right. I'm not gonna say she's in the right because we both was on different levels. You know what I'm saying? However, I do have a voice right now.
Amen.
So, when I see my faults, I think where I went wrong was the patience. I know I'm a good communicator. I think where I lacked was the patience. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. In order to be a good listener and a communicator, it takes patience. It takes patience these days in a relationship or a marriage. You got to make sure you have your stuff together. And then sometimes you learn from your mistakes. If you're about to get into another relationship after the divorce, you got to make sure you got to examine yourself and where you went wrong at. Because you don't know what type of woman you're going to marry. You don't know what type of woman you're going to have. So you get yourself together. In other words, get your house in order, And then when you get that female, you'll know exactly what to put in your household with that marriage. You display you. But first of all, you need counseling to put you on the right path. You got to have counseling because we know some things, but we forget some things, So sometimes we got to be put into remembering. And I think that's where it comes from. But you got to first get yourself together. And right. You can go from there.
All right, cool. I also wanted to ask you about blending families. Like today's generation, a lot of people jump into relationships and, you know, they wanted to, you know, start a family that's already been started. So of course, you know, the divorce rates are high right now, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, everybody's still searching for love. So how can you actually like pull a blended, because, you know, growing up, you know, I've seen you, you know, mold a family together and make it happen, make it work. How did you fix that?
Well, first of all, you got to let your light shine. And once they see you, they're going to follow that light. He who walk into darkness shall not see the light. So when you see them in darkness, you pull them out of that darkness, let them see how you govern yourself as a man. They watches you. And through love and kindness have I drawn thee. That was the word of God say. And so when you walk right and act right and do right, people want to be out there with you. But if you're arguing and fussing and fighting, they don't want to follow you. They want to stay away from you. Then you want to blend that family together and make it work. You got to first get that counseling. Where you at with me? Where I'm at with you? How you feel about this? How you feel about that? And then you hear for what each other have to say on that part before you even get married. So you have to make sure you got to come on one accord. You got to touch and agree. And how can two walk together except they agree? So you got to know if you're going to be equally yoked before you get in that marriage. Don't matter what size it is and what race, creed, or color, or whatever it is. It will work when you walk together in love.
All right. Should a man be with a woman that has 5 kids and he only has 1?
Well, it depends on the situation. It boils down to that woman. If you want to be with that woman and you know she got 5 kids, then you make it work. You make it work. Now, if you don't want to be tolerated with no kids, don't get in no relationship like that. You see what I'm saying? Because I want these kids to love me like I'm their father, you know? And so I love this woman, so when I marry this woman, I got to take the whole package. Now, how do you feel about your children with me? So now we start dating, we got to find out how it's work. If it's not working, don't bother me.
All right. Well, the fear factor with that is that I've seen in those type of relationships are women that's like, you know, fully focused on the kids instead of, you know, the man that they're dating.
Well, when you get in a relationship and that woman already have her kids, that means she is already doing what she's going to do with these children. Now, where you come in at, or where I sit back and I want to watch, and I'm going to sit back and I want a conversation with the kids and the mama. But first we do this, we got to talk with the mama first. And we got to lay a foundation with the kids, because if we're going to be together and we're going to get married, we got to know where we're coming from with each other. With first the kids, I'm going to love the kids. So I'm focusing more on the children and the mama, where she can see what type of man I am. So she can see what type of father I will be towards her kids. Because remember, those is her kids. So we can't just bum rush. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Expecting for us to go our way, because they're not my kids. But I want them to understand, and I want the woman to understand that I love the whole package.
Right.
I love the whole package, and I can draw them in by love. See, it all starts with love and loving one another. That's what counts. That's what counts. The love part. You can't be selfish, and you can't be ungrateful, and you can't get all in your feelings all the time.
Right.
So when you walk this thing with love, it makes a difference. Once again, like I said, through love and kindness have I drawn thee. They have to see the type of man that I am to their children, you know, because women want to protect their children.
Right.
And
rightfully so. You know, when it comes to blended families, I think it takes a maturity adult to actually make it work. You know, because I've seen, you know, it's not like it's the man's fault or it's the woman's fault. The maturity of it, I just think people like prematurely doing these acts as if they're ready for something that they're really not.
Well, that's where the selfish part come in at. You spending more time with your children than you spending with me. Well, those are children. And so what we have to do before we make that commitment as a family of coming together, we got to first come together separately. I need to talk with you and you'll talk with me. So we got to find out where each one of us walk into, what we going into. So you got to first know what you're getting into before you jump in.
Right.
Don't just jump in hot water and then you ready, then you can't take the heat. If you can't take the heat, then get out the kitchen. You see what I'm saying? So, but that's when you come in at and analyzing the whole situation before you get into that, because being with a woman that already got her children, you got to make sure, are you ready? Are you ready to tolerate certain things?
Right.
Are you ready to have patience with these things? Because sometimes you may not have patience with certain things. Then they're going to cause a disturbance. So before I even get into that water, I got to first know what I'm swimming into. You see what I'm saying? I got to know how deep the water is. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to be able to walk on that foundation. We got to learn to love one another before we even take on the family. You know?